back on TYT. At least I'm back on TYT from yesterday. Anyways, Cenk, Uygur, and Kasparian with you guys. We do have a great show for you guys ahead, of course.
Beautiful show.
Well, I don't know about beautiful given today's news, but
listen, there's comedic relief in the second hour that you do not want to miss.
Agreed.
Yes.
Obviously, we've got some tragedy in the first hour. We'll get to Gaza, Israel in a second, but also tragedy within the Republicans, which is awesome. It just doesn't end. The clown show that stretches to infinity. So and beyond. So we'll get to it in a little bit. All right, Casper.
Well, obviously, we begin with an update on the war in Gaza, but there is a different angle to the story that I think is worth discussing, which is the ongoing violence in the West Bank directed toward Palestinians living there, occupied region of Israel. So with that said, let's get to the details.
For the first time in years, a Palestinian refugee camp is under Israeli curfew. A raid that began in the early hours of Thursday in Nur Shams near Tul Karim in the north of the occupied West Bank is showing no signs of ending.
The violence in the Middle East, in Gaza in particular, has unfortunately expanded beyond Israel and Gaza and is now spilling over specifically into the West Bank, where protesters have grown significantly since the explosion at the Al-Ahli hospital. Now, the Palestinian Health Ministry has said that Israeli forces killed 7 Palestinians during raids on the Nur al-Shams refugee camp on Thursday. Health officials said that one of the victims was a 16-year-old boy, something you should keep in mind as I give you more details, especially in regard to the excuses used in regard to the killing of these individuals. The Palestinian Red Crescent said its medics treated 25 people in Nur Shams, the majority for gunshot wounds. Now, the Israeli military said in a statement that it was continuing to operate in the Nur al-Shams camp to thwart terror activity. So I'm guessing the excuse in shooting and killing a 16-year-old was that he's a terrorist, I'm sure. Now, sadly, that's just the latest in a trend of increasing violence. At least 61 people, including children, have been killed in the occupied West Bank since October 7th, when Hamas launched its unprecedented surprise assault on Israel, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Health there. More than 1,250 have been injured. And just last week, armed settlers attacked an apartment, leaving 4 Palestinians dead. Here's more on that.
12-year-old Abdul Rahman can't sleep at night. His sister Rabia says he's too scared to be alone. His home in the village of Khusra, just south of Nablus, was attacked by Jewish settlers. You can see them here in this video, lobbing rocks and firing at the property, shattering the windows. Inside, the floor littered with glass, scars of bullets scraping the walls, a bleak emptiness. 4 local Palestinians were killed in this attack. On the way to their funeral the following day, 2 other locals, Ibrahim and his son Ahmed Wadi, also shot dead. Images of the lost plaster the walls in Khusra. Hani Ode is the mayor here. His community lives in fear, he says, constantly attacked by Jewish settlers. And he says it's getting worse.
The situation is so bad. You can't even describe it. We're living in a devastating psychological state. None of us can sleep.
Now, just to give you a few more details about the funeral killings, Hani Ode, which is Khusra's mayor, said that he had informed a member of Israel's coordinator of government activities in the territories that he was going to attend the funeral along with Ahmad and Ibrahim. Now, a few hours beforehand, the Israeli official told him to take a different route than the one they would usually take to avoid settlers in the area. But to Ode's surprise, the road to which they were diverted was filled with settlers who eventually shot and killed Ahmad and Ibrahim in their cars. Now Palestinians in the West Bank are increasingly worried about confrontations with some 700,000 settlers, as well as IDF soldiers. The latest killings come against the backdrop of a year in which the West Bank has seen a surge in settler attacks, including one that an Israeli military commander called a pogrom. As of mid-September this year, the United Nations had reported 798 settler-related incidents in the occupied territory, leading to 216 Palestinians injured. In the same period, Israeli forces killed 179 Palestinians in the West Bank.
Yeah. So first of all, the militant settlers in the West Bank are a scourge upon humanity, upon Israel, Gaza, and the entire region. So they're militant religious zealots that are borderline lunatics. And they think that God whispered in their ear that they should steal Palestinian land, and that somehow that brings some sort of prophecy to fruition from thousands of years ago. Total, utter lunatics, okay? And they wantonly and indiscriminately killing Palestinians left and right. Israeli police looking, Israeli IDF looking, oftentimes not doing anything about it. Guys, whenever you see a story like this, and I said it in the case of Hamas, and I'm saying it now in the case of the settlers, think about if the shoe was on the other foot. So imagine that the Palestinians are the occupying force, and the Jews are being occupied in an open air prison, a ghetto of some sort, and the Palestinians send in settlers to steal more and more Jewish land. And the settlers are nuts, they're fundamentalists, and they go around killing Jews randomly, right? And the Palestinian police go, I don't see it. Oh, you murdered people at a funeral that they were attending for the other people that you murdered, and I'm not gonna do anything about it. What would the whole world do? I would hope that the whole world would say, stop massacring, murdering Jews, innocent people for no reason, let alone the occupation. And you're gonna let these religious fundamentalist zealots just keep killing and killing and killing innocent people, firing into houses for no reason at all. I would hope the world would say that. I know America would say that. But when it's Palestinians, their lives just don't matter, right? Let's be honest, just be honest for a second if you're in America or Israel. You just don't care about their lives. So now a lot of us do, and certainly if you're in our audience, I know you do, right? But for the people in power, those poor folks living in the West Bank, let alone Gaza now, no one cares about them. And those maniac settlers can go kill them anytime they like and almost always get away with it. So what are they supposed to do, man? End the occupation. The occupation is a indefensible morally, totally, utterly indefensible. The only defense for it is, Palestinians are savages and they'll never not be violent. So we have to oppress them and put our boot on their neck for 56 straight years. But you see how they're the violent ones. No, I don't. The occupation is by definition gross, horrific violence. And how much can people take of their dignity being crushed every single day? You think you're in charge of your own lives? No, you're not. I'll cut your water anytime I want. I'll cut your electricity, I'll cut food, I'll cut medical supplies. I'll cut electricity to your hospital so the grandmothers and the babies die. But what? You guys are the savages. Savages, right?
So, you know what's interesting is over the last week, something I've been thinking about a lot was the George W. Bush era and what the United States justly received a lot of backlash and criticism for. I thought about the incidents at Abu Ghraib. I thought about torture. All of those things the United States government was and should have been condemned for. But it is amazing to me that as we watch these scenes in the West Bank and certainly in the Gaza Strip, which is just the indiscriminate bombing of residential areas, indiscriminate bombing that has led to a higher death toll in regard to Palestinian civilians, there's really a giant movement in the country right now to go after anyone who condemns that.
Yeah, well, they come for me.
Okay, anyone who calls for a ceasefire. And look, let me just be clear. There are some groups that are calling for a ceasefire, and they have said things that I disagree with, including, in some cases, justifying what Hamas did. I do not in any way justify what Hamas did, and we condemned Hamas very aggressively on the show. However, calling for a ceasefire in order to save human lives is not some terrible, abhorrent thing. And the fact that the United States government is so aggressively against that, it just amazes me. It really amazes me.
Yeah, and look, it's not gonna stand. You got morons like Nate Silver out there now saying, oh no, I bet this is super popular with the American people. Even young Americans, I bet they really support Biden's helping Israel crush and kill the civilians of Gaza. Yeah, do the poll, Nate. I said it on social media. Do the poll. I'll bet with you. And the bet is whoever's wrong has to say they know nothing about polling and nothing about politics. Can you imagine getting me to say that? Come on, let's take the bet. 18 to 29-year-olds. No, what's gonna happen, this is the only piece of good news, guys, is that the young people in this country can't stand this anymore. And they don't wanna be morally complicit in this death, destruction, and occupation. We're done, and by the way, a lot of times led by Jewish Americans saying, enough, I can't stand it. This isn't, you don't speak for me. This isn't what I want. And I don't want, just like, I hate what Hamas did because not only because of what it did to those poor innocent civilians in Israel, but also because of the stain that it leaves on all Muslims. And the same is what young Jewish Americans are now saying in the country, which is, don't put the stain on me. I didn't sign up for this occupation, and I hate it. Stop the occupation, stop brutalizing these poor people. So right now, Israel has already killed twice as many innocent civilians, Palestinians in Gaza, as Hamas killed innocent civilians in Israel. So my question to the American government is, when is it enough? Is 4 times as many Palestinian civilians enough? Is 10 times, 20 times? How much murder and death does America want?
Well, let's be clear.
By the way, can I just say one more thing, Anna? And how much does it fund? Not only are they sending billions of dollars more to Israel now, what the hell do they need that for? They have the biggest military in the area. We already send them more money than we send anyone else. Does it look like they need more bombs? But now there's apparently a package they are considering for Ukraine and Israel of $100 billion. My answer to that is hell no, no way.
I would just like the US government to change their go-to default statement that we hear over and over again to be a little more accurate. So they love to say Israel has a right to defend itself, okay? Change it to what it really is. The United States government will take finite resources from the American people and fund a brutal bombing campaign that Israel wants to carry out in the Gaza Strip that will just brutalize and murder all sorts of innocent Palestinian civilians while simultaneously conflating them with Hamas. Just tell the truth, because that is what the situation really is. See, for me, seeing what happened to Israeli civilians disgusted me and made me so angry to my core. But I do not understand how anyone can watch what's happening in Gaza right now and somehow think those innocent civilians are different. They're less important, their lives don't matter. Whether we're talking about an Israeli child or a Palestinian child, they are children who do not deserve the disgusting war and brutality that they are experiencing right now. But apparently people have mask off, total mask off.
Yeah.
Total mask off. This war has really shown me that all of the endless, preaching about equality, we need to work toward equality. That's the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
They don't really care about equality.
Nothing.
When push comes to shove, when it goes outside of just engaging in tokenism, okay, they're not really about equality. Because as those Palestinian children are being bombed to death, they've got no problem with it. In fact, they'll come after me for speaking out against what's happening. Because we're not supposed to speak out against it, Cenk. Israel has a right to defend itself.
Yeah.
How exactly is this defending itself?
Yeah, so let me address that in a couple of ways. So first of all, on the hostages, it doesn't look like there's any effort being made.
They don't care about the hostages.
So they're bombing the tunnels. Okay, I get the military idea behind bombing the tunnels, but not when Hamas has the hostages. The hostages are almost definitely in the tunnels. What are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you bombing the tunnels that the hostages are almost definitely in?
There's literally American civilians, American citizens in the Gaza Strip right now who are trapped as we speak. And you have the United States government coming after anyone who dares question the bombing campaign that Israel is carrying out right now. So do you care about the American citizens at all? Do they matter? Apparently they don't even matter.
Look, guys, none of this makes any sense other than collective punishment. Because, okay, they moved everybody to the south. They dislocated 1 million people. Clear war crime. Pillar, cornerstone of genocide.
Turks did that to Armenians, by the way.
And
Turks did that to the Armenians. Okay, so if you're coming at us about the Armenian genocide, okay, which by the way, we talked about on the show endlessly, you can't then turn around and provide cover for the same behavior that's being carried out by the Israeli government.
So
disgusting, absolutely disgusting.
So they commit that war crime, they move people, and now they're bombing in the south. Because guys, what is Hamas going to do? If you're targeting Hamas, why would you move everybody to the south? You think Hamas is just gonna stay in the north and they're just gonna keep the hostages in the north? And they're gonna be like, oh, Israel's coming with ground troops. Great, we'll keep the hostages here so they can come and rescue them. No, they're gonna move them to the south. And then once they move them to the south, inside the tunnels, Israel is gonna bomb the south. And they're gonna bomb the tunnels and they're already doing it. So this is so dumb. Well, it isn't dumb. Let's be honest about what it is. This is not a military operation.
No.
This is just killing enough Palestinians so that it's collective punishment. And let me finish that thought, one extra step. So guys, what is the theoretical end game here? The stated goal of Israel is ridiculous. The Israeli right-wing government, let's be clear. They say, until the Palestinians give up leadership of Hamas, that Hamas no longer represents them. How would they even tell you that? There's no, Hamas ended democracy, there's no voting. How could they possibly tell you that they are no longer represented by Hamas? It's an unanswerable question on purpose, because Netanyahu just wants to kill them. Come on, keep it real. Israel had the moral high ground, which it unfortunately hasn't had for over 50 years. Our hearts went out to Israel and we were all on Israel's side. And now Netanyahu burned the moral high ground to the ground. And so, all right, look, Anna's 100% right, mask off moment. I see all over social media people like frothing at the mouth going, kill them, kill the Palestinians. And you know you're doing that if you're out there, if you're a right winger. Great, congratulations.
It's not just right wingers.
I got you,
keep
but
it real.
Keep it real, it's mainly right wingers, okay? So, and those guys, okay, now we know who you are. Right wing's not for war. No, you're warmongers. The minute anybody's being killed, you're there for the party, okay? So you're there with bells on. Just check out my Twitter account. They're so excited to murder Muslims.
Listen, the right wing is the right wing, okay? I know what to expect from them. But right now, the Democratic Party controls the White House. The Democratic Party controls the White House. And whether you're talking about a Democrat or Republican, it doesn't matter. It wouldn't matter. If George W. Bush were in the White House right now, it doesn't matter that Biden's in the White House right now, same. When it comes to Israel, same. They shut their brains off. Israel has a right to defend itself. Israel has a right, yes, we will fund the war. We will give you anything you want, yes. Do you know how disgusted I feel knowing that our bombs are being dropped on Palestinian civilians right now? You have the Arab world chanting death to America. And it makes me feel so sick to my stomach to know that they see us as complicit, us American citizens, as complicit in the brutality that is being carried out against the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip right now. As the daughter of ancestors who suffered a genocide, you have no idea how disgusted I am with my government in just supporting anything the Israeli government wants to do. Do I believe that the Israeli government should be able to root out Hamas and conduct military operations specifically targeting Hamas? Yes, I do. I do agree with that. I don't agree with what the Israeli government is currently doing in the Gaza Strip. I don't agree with what the Israeli government had been doing in the West Bank and continues to do to the West Bank. I don't agree with it, but we don't have a voice because dare we speak out against it? Oh, we don't believe in Israel's right to exist. All sorts of nonsense, made up accusations just meant to intimidate and silence us.
It's not gonna
I don't
work.
play that game. Okay, when I see something wrong, I'm gonna speak out against it. What's happening in the Gaza Strip right now is wrong. And if anyone's disgusted with me saying it, just consider what I think of you for supporting what's happening.
Yeah, look, Palestinians are human beings. If you don't think so, you're a monster. So, and if you say killing them is no big deal, you don't think their lives matter. So that's just a fact. So I won't go to Israel until they end the occupation. I think you're crazy to go to Israel or spend any money or do anything related to Israel until they end the occupation. If 56 years isn't enough, that means it's never going to be enough. They're gonna keep those people as prisoners for the rest of our lives. And I can't stand it, I can't stomach it. It's the core evil in this situation. I'm so sorry that that government has done that, but I didn't do it, that government did it. And whether it's the American government or my original country of origin, Turkey, those two governments have done a lot of evil. They've done a lot of great things, they've done a lot of terrible things. You have to have the courage to call out your own side. And in this case, how long are you going to occupy them?
It's not gonna end, Cenk.
It's not gonna end because you don't think Palestinians are human beings. If you thought they were just like you, if you thought they were your kids or your aunts or uncles, you would never do this to them and you would never allow it. So no, America is totally wrong. The American government, not the people, the government, totally wrong in sending more bombs to kill more Palestinians. Sorry, we don't agree. No, under no conditions. So you want to defend yourself, we're all on board. You want to kill wanton, indiscriminate death of Palestinians? What Hamas did is barbaric. When you kill twice as many innocent civilians, what does that make you?
All right, let's take a break. Take a little breather. When we come back, more news for you, including someone within the Defense Department who had so much of an issue with the Biden administration's foreign policy toward Israel that he resigned. I'll give you the details of why he resigned and more when we come back.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, Artist Sketch, Brittany, Chinigo, Maybeth, Farrell, and Steven. Thank you all for becoming Young Turks members. You guys make this show possible. They hit the join button. You could do the same, or tyt.com/join. Anna.
Well, a lot more news to get to. Let's get started.
I'm looking right at you, President Biden. Are you gonna be the president that funds and enables a genocide, or are you gonna be the president that puts your foot down and stops a genocide? That's what we're here to ask.
The woman you just heard from is with an organization known as Jewish Voices for Peace, whose members were arrested just yesterday as they were demanding a ceasefire in the Gaza Strip while demonstrating in the nation's capital yesterday. Now, while the Biden administration remains steadfast in its unwavering and unconditional support for the Israeli government, there are some members within the administration, within the State Department specifically, who have a problem with the unconditional support as all of these Palestinian civilians are being reported killed in the Gaza Strip. A US State Department official has resigned over US foreign policy on Israel's war in Gaza. Josh Paul is the individual here. He served as the Director of Congressional and Public Affairs for the US State Department's Bureau of Public Military Affairs. So in his resignation letter, Paul made, which he made public, he makes clear that he has a problem with the shipment of weapons to Israel as the Palestinian death toll continues to rise. Paul helped oversee the transfer of US weaponry to allies, a position that he acknowledged was not without its moral complexity and moral compromises. In recent days, US shipments of ammunition and so-called smart bombs and other weaponry have arrived in Israel, which was already the largest recipient of US military assistance. The Biden administration is reportedly preparing to ask Congress for another military package, which will go to both Israel and Ukraine to the tune of $100 billion.
Ridiculous.
And the Associated Press reported that the Biden administration is also getting US defense companies to expedite weapons orders to Israel so they can carry out this war that we're currently all seeing before our very eyes. Now, with that said, I want to go to the letter that Paul put out, because I think it gives you a sense of how much he's been struggling with his role within the government. I made myself a promise that I would stay for as long as I felt the harm I might do could be outweighed by the good I could do. In my 11 years, I have made more moral compromises than I can recall, each heavily, but each with my promise to myself in mind and intact. I'm leaving today because I believe that in our current course with regards to the continued, indeed expanded and expedited provision of lethal arms to Israel, I have reached the end of that bargain. And his resignation letter came just hours after Biden embraced Israel's far-right Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in Tel Aviv and reiterated his steadfast support for Israel. In response, Josh Paul said, I cannot work in support of a set of major policy decisions, including rushing more arms to one side of the conflict that I believe to be short-sighted, destructive, unjust, and contradictory to the very values that we publicly espouse and which I wholeheartedly endorse. A world built around a rules-based order, a world that advances both equality and equity, and a world whose arc of history bends toward the promise of liberty and of justice for all. And he isn't the only one to feel that there are moral concerns in working for the Biden administration and carrying out these actions as this war continues. There are others who have spoken to the Huffington Post, HuffPost as it's called now, to say that they feel that they can't speak out and that if they do, they might be retaliated against and they might lose their positions from these federal jobs. The UN Independent International Commission of Inquiry on the occupied Palestinian territory, including East Jerusalem and Israel, said in a report released earlier this week that the damage and casualties caused by Israeli attacks on Gaza were not proportionate to the military advantage, and so the actions constitute a war crime. The commission added that the prevention of entry of food and medical supplies into Gaza is a violation of international humanitarian law. So there are some people speaking out. It's usually people outside of the United States government, but in this case, you have someone who is brave enough to not only speak out, but give up his position, give up the work that he's been doing in order to speak out.
So first of all, this guy is an absolute American hero, and I wish we had more people in government that had this kind of courage and principles and conscience. Unfortunately, it's a breaking news story because there's one. We found one in the US government. So thank you. So now, $100 billion, are you kidding me? This is a joke, this is ridiculous. Whenever we ask for anything here for Americans, paid family leave, higher wages, public option, anything. What's the one thing that all of cable news screams at the top of their lungs, both Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC, all of them? There's no money, how are you gonna pay for that?
No, Cenk.
Well, for war, for wanton destruction, apparently we have plenty of money.
No, I want everyone to accept what their actual role as hardworking Americans happens to be in the United States. We're just the piggy bank for endless wars and for defense contractors. That's what we are. When it comes to our tax money actually, enriching our lives, improving our lives, improving the lives of our brothers and sisters here in the United States, we don't have the resources for it. We don't have the resources for it, Cenk. We can't do it. We don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
But we will print money We will print money for two things: bailing out financial institutions and paying for forever wars abroad. That is what we will pay for. We will print money for that.
Everybody knows that's true. I mean, later in the show, we're going to tell you how American people have lost all faith in American media and most of the American institutions. Why? Because we all know you're robbing us to pay the defense contractors and every other lobbyist there is, and the drug companies. It's disgusting. We stop robbing us. So do we want to help the Ukrainians? Yes. Have we funded them already? A lot, yes. Can you make an argument for funding them more against in that case, a war of aggression from Russia? Yeah, you could make that argument. I'm open to that argument. Should we help Israel with things like, for example, intelligence? Yes.
Yes.
Because look, intelligence is the most important thing, because Israel has every right to go after Hamas, and you need intelligence to figure out the difference between Hamas and innocent Palestinians. If you say, no, don't help them with intelligence, that doesn't make any sense, right? Well, the intelligence leads to bombings. Yeah, but those bombings are at least intended to get Hamas rather than dropping a giant bomb on a residential building. So yes, help them with intelligence. But $100 billion, that's not even for Israel, and it's not for Ukraine. It's for the piggy bank of gross, disgusting defense contractors. They go and bribe almost every politician out there, and those stupid lying politicians go out there and go, oh yeah, we need another $100 billion. For you guys, hell no, no way, never to the American people. Republicans, what the hell have you done? Bunch of phony populists. What populism? What? Where? America first, my ass. You never served the American.
So Cenk, you bring up an important point, and I think we need to emphasize this, right? Helping Israel with intelligence is incredibly important because you want to root out Hamas, which should not be conflated with Palestinian civilians who have also been brutalized by Hamas in the Gaza Strip. But see, you and I have enough brain cells to understand the difference. But Fox News likes to employ morons like Jesse Waters who can't tell the difference. And so they spew disgusting garbage like what you're about to hear.
I don't think we can have a Palestinian state at this point. I've had it with the Palestinians. I've given up on the Palestinians. If I was in Israel, I wouldn't be talking about a Palestinian state right now. I don't think Joe Biden should be talking about a Palestinian state right now. And I don't like how people tried to differentiate between the Palestinians and Hamas. To me, I see people with guns. That's Hamas. The people without the guns are the Palestinians. They believe the same thing. The Palestinians hire Hamas to run their government. You poll them, they all love killing Jews. It's in their charter. They say they believe in suicide bombings. Every time a Palestinian refugee goes to another country, it doesn't work out so well for the other country and for those Palestinians. No one wants them.
He's saying all of this as residential buildings are being bombed in the footage right next to him.
Yeah, so I mean, I don't have to say it, he said it. He's declaring himself a racist, and he's saying, I hate all Palestinians and I don't care about them. And he's showing you pictures of them being killed and basically celebrating it. I mean, how disgusting a person do you have to be? And this is the other side. We say, hey, for God's sake, care about the innocent Israelis and the innocent Palestinians. And they say, no, kill the Palestinians, call them all terrorists, and then make up things like, oh, they attack people in every country they go in. What an outrageous lie. It just made that up, 100%. Because Jesse Waters is a liar. Almost everyone on Fox News lies for a living. That's what they do. Like, who should we hate today? Who should we try to get fear and disgust and anger towards and get all of our side riled up to hate other human beings? That's what they get paid a lot of money for. One of the Fox News anchors just bought a $37 million house.
Brett Baer, yep.
Yeah, I don't know if the brick and mortar is made out of blood, for all the hatred that Fox News has driven in this world. Rupert Murdoch is one of the most evil people that has ever lived on this planet. And so all of these guys just brazenly admitting, why don't we just never give them a state, never treat them as humans? You're a disgusting person.
So let me balance that with another wonderful person, because we talked about a State Department employee, a veteran of the department for 11 years, quitting his job over the foreign policy toward this war in the Gaza Strip. Well, now an employee, a senior researcher with the Anti-Defamation League, has just announced that he is quitting his position in the organization because of his moral issues with the messaging coming out of the organization. So I want to read a little bit from him and what he has to say. His name is Stephen C. Rea. He focused on online hate and harassment as a member of ADL's Center for Technology and Society. He resigned because he couldn't square my morals and politics with the direction I saw the organization going in. I think that the ADL does a lot of great work, and trust me, there are some amazing people there, but there are times when you have to stand up and say enough. So what does he mean? Well, ADL's Anti-Defamation League's director, Jonathan Greenblatt, has spurred indignation on the left for labeling Palestinian human rights campaigners as extremists. And reports of dissent among ADL staffers emerged earlier this year due to Greenblatt's framing of anti-Zionism as anti-Semitism.
Yeah. Okay, so look, ADL is very nuanced. They've done some great work, but Greenblatt is he's out of control. So anytime anyone criticizes one single thing about the right-wing government of Israel, he jumps in and calls everybody anti-Semitic. Jonathan, I got news for you. It isn't working anymore. You've cried wolf 2 million times. And look, there's massive anti-Semitism in the country and in the world, and we're trying to help fight it together. And we appreciate the ADL when they fought against Muslim discrimination under Donald Trump. But every time you make it political and every time you defend the gross right-wing government of Israel, crushing and killing Palestinians, and when we ask you to stop killing innocent civilians, and you go, anti-Semite, what? By the way, that's a slur against your own people. Saying that, what? Are you saying that you're all in favor of killing innocent civilians?
They're not.
Well, they're not. You don't speak for them. Stop slandering good Jewish Americans by pretending that they're all in favor of this murder and mayhem, and that somehow it's anti-Semitic to speak out against it. Look, other than old school idiots in Washington and a bunch of right-wingers online, nobody's buying that line anymore. That stuff used to work in the past. I don't care, you could say that 2,000 times over. No one cares, it's not gonna work. There's real anti-Semites shooting up synagogues. And then when you could defend the killing of innocent civilians and pretend that that's anti-Semitism to criticize that, you lose all credibility. This guy who left the ADL, total American hero. Now I'm gonna say something that I don't know how anybody's gonna feel about it, but this is my true feelings. I think that Jews in America are going to actually save the Palestinians. And so you can say, that's crazy, I don't think you're right, Cenk, or why would that make a difference? Because at some point, Jewish Americans have always, like when you look at the different events in American history, the civil rights movement, you're fighting against the Muslim ban, you're fighting against right-wing extremism, you name it. Jewish Americans have almost always done the right thing.
That's right.
And they've been a pillar of morality in this country. And right now, young Jewish Americans are rebelling at record rates, going, not in our names, no way, not in our names, okay? And I think that rebellion is gonna grow and grow and grow. And it's gonna go to the middle age. I don't know if it'll get to the old, because the older you are, the more set you get in your ways. Not everybody, but unfortunately, I know from my experience as an immigrant, older Turks, more set in their ways, more obsessed with identity, and younger generations are better and see all of us as humanity. So again, not all older people, it's just general things. But I believe that there's going to be a movement among Jewish Americans that say, enough, let them go, end the occupation, end this ridiculous cycle of violence. And how has it helped Israel? How has it helped Jews in the world. All it's done is driven incredible hatred towards Jews all across the world because you won't end the occupation. Everybody says, what are you doing? How long are you gonna brutalize these people? So that's my sense of it. I hope to God I'm right. And I believe in Jewish Americans. They have been the moral core of this country for a long, long time. And I mean America. And I think they're gonna do it again.
All right, well, when we come back, we're gonna move off this topic and talk a little bit about how former Trump lawyer Sidney Powell, big fan of the art of the deal. That and more coming up, don't miss it.
Back on TYT, Cenk, Anna, Mateo, Mejia Duff, and S. Alder. Thank you for joining, guys. We appreciate you. Members make this show possible. Just read one from a YouTube member. Sam Volodowski, the one, wrote in, as an American Jew, I'm all for saving the regular Palestinian civilians. Netanyahu is a total monster. So Sam, thank you for having an open mind and for caring about all of humanity. That's exactly what we're trying to do here. We appreciate you. Anna.
We have some fascinating new updates to share with you in regard to Donald Trump's election interference trial, even though Donald Trump doesn't necessarily have anything to do with what happened today. So with that said, let's get into it.
And ma'am, do you understand that this is a negotiated plea, which means that your attorney and I have reached an agreement, or the state has reached an agreement as to the proposed sentence that will be made to the court?
I do.
Do you understand that the recommendation being made to the court as to this accusation on counts 1 through 6, that you be sentenced to 12 months of probation to run consecutive with one another?
I do.
Well, for Trump campaign lawyer Sidney Powell, looks like she's willing to take a plea deal. Big fan of the art of the deal. And this might mean bad news for Donald Trump, who of course is indicted in the very same Georgia election meddling case. Now, Powell is one of the 18 co-defendants in that case. And here's what we know. She's pleading to 6 misdemeanor charges, according to the agreement read in court, but will get about 12 months of probation for each count, as well as a $6,000 fine. She'll also have to pay about $2,700 restitution as part of the plea deal. But the big get here is that she will serve no time behind bars. My guess is that is the reason why she took the plea deal. But in order to take the plea deal, you gotta be willing to testify in the case, meaning testify against your co-defendants. So let's get to some of those details. First off, I think it's worth noting what the indictment says. So the indictment lists the charges that she was facing, including conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties, conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties. So 2 charges of that. Election interference. Again and again and again, and it really has to do with her role in basically like breaking into the Coffee County election office and obtaining voting records from the office itself, which is of course a very serious crime. Now, here's more on what Sidney Powell was facing in this case and why she likely took the plea deal.
If this case had gone to trial, the state would have shown that between the dates of December 1st of 2020 and January 7th of 2021, the defendant, Sidney Powell, along with several co-conspirators, entered into a conspiracy to intervene with the performance of election duties of co-defendant Misty Hampton, also known as Emily Misty Hayes. At all times relevant to the conspiracy, Misty Hampton was the elections director for Coffee County, Georgia, and was subject to all duties imposed by Chapter 2 of Title 21 of OCGA. The purpose of the conspiracy was to use Misty Hampton's position to unlawfully access secure elections machines in Coffee County, Georgia. This conspiracy included the following objectives. 1, to willfully tamper with electronic ballot markers and tabulating machines. 2, to cause certain members of the conspiracy who were not officers charged by law with the care of ballots and who were not persons entrusted by any such officer with the care of ballots for a purpose required by law to possess official ballots outside of the polling place.
So rather than deal with that trial, she has instead decided, all right, I'll plead guilty to some misdemeanors. She's pleading guilty to 6 counts of conspiracy to commit intentional interference with performance of election duties. And as part of the agreement, Powell must testify truthfully about any co-defendants involved in the case and provide all documents to the district attorney's office relevant to their case against the other co-defendants, according to Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee. So the Trump team is kind of pretending like this is no biggie for them, but I certainly would be concerned.
Yeah, so I hope that as part of the deal, she also has to release the Kraken. I've been waiting this whole time for the Kraken, so I hope she's got that in her back pocket. Okay, so guys, we don't yet know how important this is because of one giant critical fact. We don't know what they talked to the prosecutors and what deal they made behind the scenes. So we know she's getting a super light punishment and is testifying against the others. But if it's about like the one voting machine in Georgia that they broke into, yeah, that's obviously illegal. There should be punishment for it. But that's a tiny thing, if I'm being honest with you guys, right? The real thing, like if that's all they did, I'd say, guys, let's get past this, okay?
Really?
Yeah.
Breaking into voting machines?
Yeah, and I'll tell you why. Don't get me wrong, I'm not gonna let them off. I'd say those guys, whoever they did it, should have faced significant criminal penalties. But that's not a coup attempt. It's one voting machine in Georgia, and it's a bunch of right-wing guys under Trump, et cetera, and a bunch of local yahoos going, oh, we got this, okay? But one voting machine isn't gonna make the difference in the whole country. The real deal is the fake electors. So that's an actual coup attempt. So if she has the goods on how they plan to overturn democracy, if she knows and can help prove that they knew they lost, but we're trying to use fake electors to steal the election, then this is the biggest thing that's happened, like in a long time. But if she comes in with some weak sauce about a voting machine, this and they were being mean, then it's a waste of time.
For them to essentially give her a slap on the wrist as part of this plea deal, wouldn't she have to prove that she's got the goods?
Yeah, and so that's why I don't know the conversations that they had. But remember, Anna, prosecutors really, really want to win in general. And
that's true. Yep.
And so now, look, to be fair, Fani Willis has done a great job so far, right? We're very much in favor of how she's handled this case so far, and she's shown courage, she's shown wisdom, et cetera. So she's earned our trust to some degree. So I'm hoping she got this right. But a lot of prosecutors will be like, oh, I flipped somebody, yay me. And she'll testify and she'll say some things that'll help me a little bit, good enough, right? And so I hope that Willis hasn't done that. And so she's got to deliver the goods here, guys. And remember this, this was not at all surprising to me. If you watch Young Turks, I told you guys earlier, and we told you guys, that a lot of the co-defendants were flipping on Sidney Powell. They were all pointing their fingers, and so we already knew she was a sacrificial goat, right? So they were gonna throw her under the bus. So at some point she'd have been nuts not to get a deal with the prosecutors.
Well, let me also just note that even before anyone was indicted in this case, well before anyone was indicted, I remember that Sidney Powell in her public appearances just was so unhinged that it even made the Trump campaign uncomfortable with her. So they started distancing themselves with her.
And that's the other reason why they picked her to throw her under the bus.
Smart.
She'll go, hey.
It's smart for her to decide to flip. I mean, it wasn't so smart for the co-conspirators, right? Or co-defendants.
Yeah, so since they did a little bit of distancing from her, they almost had to pick her as the person to sacrifice. So, oh, no, she's the one that did everything. None of the rest of us were innocent. She had the Kraken, she had the dumps, she had the mules. It was all her, and that's why we distanced her. But they previewed that already. So, one of the things we found out is it turns out Sidney Powell isn't crazy after all, because to stay on the side that's throwing her under the bus would have been crazy. Like she would have gone to jail, she would have gotten the most severe sentence, and she would have gotten no support from her co-defendants. Now she walks away with a deal, and I hope to God, like I said, that it's a good deal that gets us real information. If she gave weak sauce information, then man, she skated, and then that would really bother me.
So we'll see how it plays out, but I did want to also fill you all in on some of the other co-defendants, including the man with the best last name in this entire situation, Mr. Cheesebro, Kenneth Cheesebro, that is. Now he refused to take a plea deal, so he will stand trial. And if he's found guilty, he will deal with the full extent of the punishment that the judge decides. An attorney, he was an attorney. He's facing 7 counts after prosecutors said that he's the one who drafted a strategy to use so-called alternate electors to prevent Joe Biden from receiving the Electoral College votes necessary to basically make his win official. Now, Sidney Powell is the second person who has flipped. She's the second one to do a plea deal. Scott Hall is the other individual. He pleaded guilty to tampering with voting machine equipment. Now, Steve Sado, who is Trump's lead attorney in this case, says, no sweat off my back. He told ABC News, quote, assuming truthful testimony in the Fulton County case, it will be favorable to my overall defense strategy. So he's either putting on a brave face or he means it. It's really hard to tell, but we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, look, Cheesebro is going to wind up being pivotal, and it's amusing that the guy who's pivotal in this case is the funniest name in the world. But the reason why is he's one of the principal actors in the fake elector scheme, right? So if he flips, now ball game. Now Trump's in trouble. Okay, if he doesn't flip, and they throw, since he's going first and way before anyone else, if they throw the book at him, if they convict him and send him to prison for 20 years, you know what's gonna happen to the other 16 that have not cooperated yet with the prosecutors? Like sweat's gonna go down their face, like all of their hair, makeup, or whatever it was on Rudy's face is gonna flow down their faces. They're gonna be in a cold sweat panic if that brother gets, or that bro gets 20 years in jail, okay? So let's go get Cheesebro. If he did it, obviously correct way through the justice system, prove the fake elector scheme, and throw the book at him.
All right, we got to take a break. When we come back for the second hour of the show, we've got some new tidbits from Senator Mitt Romney's memoir, where he trashes his fellow Republican lawmakers. Can't wait to share that with you, so don't miss it. We'll be right back.
Thanks for listening to the full episode of The Young Turks. Support our work, listen ad-free, access members-only bonus content, and more by subscribing to Apple Podcasts at apple.co/TYT. I'm your host, Cenk Uygur, and I'll see you soon.